Hello, and a big welcome back to all my subscribers. And if you're not a subscriber, what is wrong with you? Today, I wanted to talk about some ancient books that I have collected around. This is a book of MS-DOS programming by Ray Duncan, and it's basically the sort of assembly language interrupts and all of that sort of thing for x86 DOS. Now, it's a really old book, and I've had it for a long time. I've got this other old book, which I've had for a long time, by a guy some people might recognize, Donald Knuth, I believe is how you pronounce it, Fundamental Algorithms. But I've also got The Art of Computer Programming, volumes 1 through 3, and this one is a fairly recent update, but it was interesting when these first came out that the professor used to give $1 to anybody who found a mistake in any of his books, and he'd write them a check and send it to them. And these checks are now collector's items. So if you got one of these checks, you are sitting on a gold mine, because people will pay a lot of money for one of the professor's checks. But what I wanted to talk about today was something that you can get on the internet. Now, you may not have heard of Donald E. Knuth. However, in the Dr. Dobbs Journal, which is no longer published but is available in many volumes on the internet, you can find this famous luminary and some of the early works that he wrote about typography and how to do it. And you can read this article no problem. In later versions of the Dr. Dobbs Journal, you can find many other people, such as Ray Duncan, who wrote, in the later articles, he had a regular column in the Dr. Dobbs Journals that you could read regarding x86 programming and assembly and all that sort of good stuff, before he wrote the book for the Microsoft book. Now, some of the, if you might not know these people, you may not know Ray Duncan, you may not know Donald Knuth, but you might recognize this guy, Steve Wozniak. Now, a lot of people are going to go, who the hell's Steve Wozniak? But Steve Wozniak was the engineer who literally made the Apple computer. So everybody knows Steve Jobs, but honestly, Steve Jobs is just a marketing guy. And Steve Wozniak is the man who invented the Apple computer and did the 6502 programming and all of that. And he, in the early editions of Dr. Dobbs Journal, you can frequently find quite a few articles by Steve Wozniak. One of them, which I was looking for earlier but I couldn't find, was basically a disassembler for the 6502 that he had written and outlined, and the code is in here in one of these books somewhere. So, you know, it's really quite interesting, some of the names that you'll see. Now, you might not be an Apple fan, so you might not know Steve Wozniak. You might not be into algorithms, so you don't know Donald Knuth. And basically, you just do C programming and C++ programming, and you don't really care about all of that. In which case, you might have heard of these guys, Dennis Ritchie and Brian Kernighan, who invented the C programming language, who also have articles in some of these early editions of Dr. Dobbs. So you can get all of this stuff on the Internet Archive. And it's really cool to look through all of this. You can actually get early implementations of C compilers, and Basic and Tiny Basic, and they basically printed them all out, and so you could retype these programs in. So it's really interesting, and it's really cool if you want to go back and look at the sort of problems and issues and discussions around the early computing, the early days of DOS and Apple and that sort of era in the 70s and 80s. And it's really quite interesting to read some of these and look at the algorithms they use, and some of the interesting discussions that are held within these old magazine articles. So I just wanted to drop this out there just to show you what's available on the Internet Archive. If you're into sort of old computers, or retro computing, or 8-bit compilers, assemblers, and that sort of thing, useful subroutines for the Z80 assembler, all kinds of cool stuff in these old magazines. So have a look at them, have a rummage around and see what you can find. There's some really interesting stuff. Over the course of the next couple of weeks, I plan to go through here and pick out some of the more interesting things, and the things that are, kind of relevant to today, or that could be modified or used, or looked at in a different way from a modern point of view. So I hope you enjoyed this little trip down memory lane. Thank you again for watching. If you like this sort of thing, please like and subscribe and share these videos around, because that really helps out my channel. I really want to get more people interested in this sort of technology and language learning, and just the sort of things that I'm interested in, and I hope you are too. So thanks again for watching. Don't forget, if you like to read books, I have some fiction books. I am an author, and you can check out my books on xgipublishing.com. All right, I'll see you soon.